What's up, everyone? I'm Jackie.
And I'm Lindsay,
And we are Women Leaders in Sports Medicine.
here to help you grow your game and own your game.
Today we are joined with strength and conditioning coach Andrea Hayden with the Minnesota Twins. We discuss her journey to being the first female strength and conditioning coach in the MLB, communication styles between colleagues and athletes, and acting on courage over comfort. As always, thanks for joining us, and we hope you enjoy listening in.
Well, thanks everyone for joining us today, and a special thanks to Andrea for being on the show today. How you doing?
Hi, good. Thanks for having me.
Awesome.
Thank you.
So to get rolling today, we'd like to start off with just asking what this time off has been like for you with everything going on.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, right? All the downtime. We started talking about the boredom that kind of starts hitting in and the fidgetiness. Need to be transparent. I'm kind of an introvert at heart, so secretly I'm kind of enjoying the extra quiet time and downtime. But it's different. It's a different kind of feel. A lot of extra time for family, and which is always good because I doubt we'll ever have a time like this again. For us though, with baseball, we were just getting ready to jump in. We had just
your spring training.
We were just a week shy of getting going. So for us, it was a little bit bittersweet just because we put the grind in of the 6+ weeks of spring training and only to kind of go back and sit back down like it's an off season again. So that just kind of increased our fidgetiness, I guess, in a sense. But overall, I can't complain. Healthy, family's healthy, and we're doing all right.
Yeah, that's great. Really taking time for the things it sounds like maybe we don't have as much time for when we're grinding it out in the clinic or in the strength and conditioning room.
Yeah, both.
In the weight room. Yeah. So the next question we like to start all of our podcasts with is your why of getting into strength and conditioning coaching.
Yeah, that's good. I think at the root of and what you guys do as well, like we're a service industry. Like at the end of the day, our goal is to serve and help people. I just was fortunate enough that my platform is professional athletes. But I think at the end of the day, if it's a NAI school or a D2 school or a private sector, like at the end of the day, my job and my goal and mission in life is just to serve people. I'm obviously very passionate about the weight room. I think it's a great tool to bring out a lot of things in people and in a team environment. And it's just what it represents for the extra work and that 1% better. But yeah, I think my why has always been to serve and help people and for myself too, but to achieve that next level, whatever that might be for them, and to get alongside of them and kind of push and motivate them.
That's great. Yeah. I mean, one of the great things about both of our professions, strength and conditioning and physical therapy, is you're always working towards something better. Right? Like there's all the things in between and all the trials and tribulations and things like that, but we're always working and growing together. And so it's a really cool environment to kind of really foster with people, whether it be, like you said, at, a D2 school or D1 school or MLB.
Yeah.
I'd love to start chatting a little bit about just kind of your journey to the MLB. You worked at Exos a little bit, I think in San Diego, correct?
Right. Yeah.
And then worked with USA Hockey, went to China, all that crazy stuff. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. So I always kind of title my journey as the most untraditional path as possible. So I never followed the structure of high school to college to graduate school to work. So right out of high school, I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew I love sports, but school came kind of hard. So I kind of went the personal training route. And you look back now and like, wow, that was a great opportunity to develop like some people skills that I hadn't developed at 18 years old. So I kind of stayed in the personal training round. I did a lot of manage some gyms and just kind of that sector. So that kind of, I think I did it till about I was like 22 or so, 23. But then started getting like antsy and bored, right? Kind of working with the middle-aged mom for so long, and kind of seeing some other my friends that had gone to college and got to experience some of that stuff. So I always kind of felt like I was a little bit behind, like maybe I picked the wrong path. But hindsight, obviously, no regrets. So just decided that I needed to research more about sports and just kind of following that. Maybe I have a passion in that. And I didn't really know what I wanted, but thankfully I had some people around me that kind of introduced me to exercise science and understanding what a CSCS was because I had no idea. And then realizing, okay, I do need that degree. So, at 24, I went to school in St. Louis, where I'm from, a local small college, which kind of propelled me forward. So just kind of speeded up. I turned into doing a lot of internships. So I was at Exos in San Diego, did an internship there, went to the University of Louisville for an internship, worked with USA Hockey, their development camp, which kind of opened up the door to kind of head to China and work over there. And in that whole process had gone to do my master's at Lindenwood, which I did a graduate assistant position as well. So in a short amount of time, I did a lot of things because I felt like I was behind. Like I had to speed up. I had to excel my process. And a big part of my success and any success I've had has been a network of people that have vouched for me, that I've built along the way. You know, professors, because I was older, professors kind of became more of a mentor. I understood the value they could bring to me. I was desperate for any information for help. So I reached out to anybody and everybody that could talk to me. LinkedIn was kind of new, you know, in 2012 or 13. So I created one of those accounts and just started reaching out to coaches, and thankfully work in a profession that is all about helping others. So they were just open doors to give me their advice and share their journey, which made my process a little bit smoother. So then it was just kind of through the same thing, that network people, a guy that I interned with in 2015, knew the director for the Minnesota Twins, and they just connected us because he knew that just knowing both of us, I at the time wasn't looking for anything. I was full-time at Lindenwood as a strength coach there at small D2 school. My family's from that area. I was pretty content and happy. But he said, why don't you just give him a call, you know, just talk to him and see what comes of it. And so I was open to that. Obviously love chatting with people. And so about an hour phone call, talking with him as he painted the vision for the strength and conditioning program, excuse me, and just some other avenues that he had. I got the phone and felt like I'd be crazy to pass that up. So literally like 5 days later, my car was packed up and we're headed down to spring training, which was 2019 last year. So I'm entering my second year with the Twins.
That's amazing. What a cool journey. I think a lot of people can relate to, you know, like starting something in their career and all of a sudden realizing, you know, maybe I'm not fulfilled or I'm not excited as I was when I started, and really having to reevaluate what they're doing and kind of creating a new idea of what's their new passion or what's the new best thing for them. You touched a little bit throughout this about, you know, kind of talking with people and networking with people and your mentors. What were maybe some pieces of advice that your mentors that you gained kind of gave you throughout the way to help keep pushing you towards your end game working with, you know, the Twins?
Yeah, I think a big part was not only through conversations, but boldly asking to shadow, because I think visually seeing what people were doing was what really sparked a fire for me. So going and shadowing some coaches or just watching them, observing them, that was like a big eye-opening experience, just watching and learning. And so I think when I was still trying to figure out, like, I didn't know if I wanted to do the PT route or ATC. I didn't know exactly. But once I kind of got in that weight room and experienced it, watching coaches work and then just kind of learning from them, that was, for me, that was really helpful, just being visual. But I think just a lot of advice was that everyone's kind of been there and everyone's journey is different. And I think when I felt that pressure of feeling behind and getting a late start, I think everyone was so kind to know that it wasn't that way. And my insecurities, you know, low science level, and I didn't get exposed to that, and having to basically relearn math and relearn how to write papers at 24 because I hadn't been in school in so long. Like, there was such like a chip on my shoulder in the most positive way possible. But coaches were really honest to give resources, to share their story. But I think I learned quickly that they weren't going to do the work for me. And when I really connected with some like big name coaches or got internships at big schools, you kind of feel like, oh, you can breathe a little easier. Okay, you got your foot in the door. And you know, maybe that's just like the ego talking, which I learned quickly. They're not going to do it for you. And the second I thought I made it, I hadn't even been close. And so that was kind of like a good experience for me. But that was big. Yeah, just watching that they were going to help you. They would give their advice. They would open doors when they could, but you're going to be the one walking through it. You know, going through like the USA Hockey in China was given to me from the director at University of Louisville, but she didn't get on that plane and go to China. Like, I had to get, but she opened that door. And if I can prove myself and be of value, I was going to do it. So this was an example that was really helpful. I think they also just shared the need for a community of people and understanding that, which I love what we're doing, is that different disciplines, they need each other. And if there's one thing I'm passionate about, is knowing that I can't do it by myself. I need my PT gals, I need my TCs and my nutritionists and sports psych, and this holistic mindset that we're always pushing towards. It's true. Like, the second that we think we know it as an individual, we'll be really set up for failure in a sense. So, I mean, I can reflect back and give tons of quotes and books and things that they've given to me, but I think overall it's just, there was people alongside of me that were my network. And I took pride in what I say is like wearing their name on my back, like a jersey. And when they, put their name on me or gave me opportunities, I was going to take that serious, probably too serious, but I represented them professionally and personally. And I think that allowed more opportunities to happen because I also in turn wanted to take care of those people. And so acknowledging them in any success I've had and knowing that I never have ever done it by myself.
That was an amazing 2 minutes. If no one listens to the rest of the podcast, I really hope they listen to that. The main reason being you touched on a lot of great points for our listeners. One, you took a path less traveled, and a lot of people think the journey is very straight shot. And as you touched on with yourself and maybe with some of your mentors' journeys and advice they gave to you, that's not always the case, as well as how important communication is across the board with other disciplines, how important your support network was, but most of all, how at the end of the day, you had to do the work.
Right.
You were representing the people who gave you the opportunities and you weren't going to let them down. Absolutely. So I think that's great that you touched on all of that. And I think you answered this question a little bit in terms of how important it is that you're representing the people who gave you these opportunities. But with all the unique opportunities that you've had, what are some lessons that you were able to take and apply into your practice now?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's always evolving, excuse me, and changing because we're evolving and changing. But I think, and I can give just maybe a more recent one, and that being like, and like you said, communication being so vital to what we do. But there's a difference between agreeing and understanding. And so I'm fortunate to, when we're in practice and baseball's happening, we're in an office full of the head ATC and the assistants and sports psychologists in there, our PTs in there, our nutritionists. Like we're all in this office in a shared space, which poses great opportunity and then challenges, obviously, as well. But
for sure,
I learned quickly that when you have everyone there with different opinions, different backgrounds, different thoughts, we're never required to always agree, but we are always required to understand. So I always need to see, like one thing, Jack, I need to see where you guys are coming from. So you have a patient come in or a player and you see something, maybe I would not agree that was the best path for treatment, or I wouldn't have implemented that, but I need to understand why you saw what you saw. And if I can understand those things, then we can both agree to disagree, or we don't have to get our feelings hurt because we didn't agree with the same path, but we understood each other. And so I think that's something I still work on and try to practice. But I am required to like listen to you and put myself in your spot and understand. But I don't have to walk away, and you don't have to get your feelings hurt, and vice versa, because we don't agree. Like it's okay to disagree. And I think when we get our feelings hurt or our ego gets too big, it's because we want everyone to agree with us. But I just want people to understand me. And then I want to learn. I want to see what they see, and it be this more of an open-ended dialogue that happens. So that's what the most recent is, because I think I was in an environment that required you to really understand people. And I learned a lot because you can be open-minded with that way. And I'm not perfect at it by any means. I still have my standards, or I still feel like I'm pretty hard on some things. But I think if you can learn that, that was kind of something that was like self-taught, but seeing it at that level. And I think it's at every level, but because I'm in an office with all these people, I think it was really, really heightened, and you had to move quickly to understand that stuff. But that was a big life lesson, I think. And I know that didn't answer as far as like a mentorship mindset, but that was a big life lesson that I feel is important for all of us to kind of think about.
I think that's huge.
Definitely.
Yeah, that's huge. I think, one, it's a great opportunity to be able to access and be a part of a interdisciplinary group and really grow with each other. And like you said, it comes with challenges sometimes, but I think one of the really great things that you hit on is the power of understanding each other.
Yeah.
I think, in my experience, the situations where maybe I didn't explain something well enough, or someone didn't explain something well enough to me, that's when, feelings start to get hurt. And as long as, we sit and have that kind of conversation of, this is where I'm coming from, this is what I'm seeing from my perspective, but also like not being afraid to ask, well, what do you see? Right. So when I'm working with my strength and conditioning coaches, you guys work with them all the time too. You guys are seeing maybe some movements that, I didn't expect you to go over or see or whatever it may be. And so I think, we all have certain points of knowledge that are so valuable to learn from. And I think not asking someone else's perspective and understanding someone else's perspective is really a disservice to not only myself as a clinician, because I could have an opportunity to learn, but for the athlete as well. So I think that's such a valuable thing to bring up, is understanding each other. Yeah. So you've kind of had this ability to coach two different kind of sports, hockey and baseball. What do you like about treating each differently, or strengthening and conditioning each differently? And what are some differences you've had to kind of switch up as you started switching from hockey to baseball?
Yeah, that's good. I think even outside of that, being a graduate assistant or being an intern, you worked with everything. So I could literally list off the sport and I probably had an opportunity. I mean, I worked with synchronized swimming, which I knew nothing about, but I had a full year with synchronized swimming, or men and women's lacrosse, softball, basketball, like just a realm of sports. When you're a graduate assistant or an intern, you kind of get exposure to it. But I did kind of find myself kind of not even pigeonholing in a negative way, but towards hockey, it kind of just started kind of unfolding that way a little bit. And then obviously now baseball. I think, the opportunity of working in a lot of sports, I think still at the end of the day, I still work with people, and I will never forget that person is better than the athlete or player. And so even cultures of sports are different, and working with different populations is different, but they're still very much people. Even going to China, like I didn't have a translator that spoke English very well. And so having to work with women Chinese hockey players, and learning really quickly that vocabulary and our English words really don't hinder me from doing my job, because I can communicate with people through body language and energy and emotion, and high fives, and like just different ability to communicate, where I often kind of took away a life lesson was that words probably get in the way more than they help. And so being able to communicate through like body language, and when my athletes walk in the door, I can tell if they're having a good day or a bad day. Can you read them? Can you read people? And so just even like across sport, it's very similar. They're still humans and people. And then obviously when you go into like a needs analysis, a sport is very different, and what we're focused on or what we're working towards will be different between baseball and hockey. But I just do believe that they're people, and they, even if they're $1 million baseball players, like they're still very much people. And I work with a bunch of boys that are silly and play jokes, and they're crazy, and they're just a bunch of brothers. And so I think that across the board, like I guess they're people, and how we focus on sports and how we train them and what we need to get out of them is different. But they're still just great human beings that you get a chance to be around.
Yeah, I think the ability to just realize that everyone's human, it's not different across the spectrum. Maybe everyone communicates a little differently is huge. I think the ability for you to kind of figure out how to communicate in a situation that was quite challenging, where maybe someone wasn't speaking English, just makes you be able to relate to someone in many different ways. And I remember seeing an interview with you with some of the boys on the Twins. And one thing I really like that you did, and I don't see this all the time, is I saw you in it asking them, well, like, how far do you want to run today? Or do you want to use a trap bar? Do you want to squat today? I think that's a really cool thing in communication style, and bringing your athlete into the training session versus being like, I'm your coach, you do what I say, because it's you are a team just as much as they are a team. So I think that's some really interesting things to see. It's very cool.
I appreciate that. I think we call it like I think it's titled like a dual leadership, where there's leadership from the top to the bottom, but there's still leadership within that group, whether it's the team itself, the players themselves, or within the department because they're in the weight room, or it's in the training room, wherever it is. But there has to be a dual leadership approach. And I think that's one thing I've really picked up from transitioning from strength and conditioning college into professional, is that my job is just to get alongside of them. And I work with a variety of guys, people that are veterans that are older than me, and they've been around and played baseball probably longer than I've been alive, and they have their way of doing things. And so if I came in and tried to like correct it or change it or change their routine, I lost that player. I lost that buy-in. He'll probably check me off. But like if I get him the chance to just come alongside him and ask how his day is doing. And it's a cool story because there is a player that we have that for a year, He kind of never even came in the weight room. It just wasn't part of your routine. He just never grew up with that mentality. And then it wasn't until this last off season that he said, like, I'm not getting any younger and I think I need some help. And so my job is to just jump on that and like, yes, what can we do? How can I help you? And like, you know, this too, like, that's when I get pumped up. Like, I've been waiting for that. But if I wasn't patient and I tried to jump on him sooner or tried to offer him a program or something, he probably would have crumbled it up and threw it away. So it's waiting for those opportunities and moments to get alongside of them. And any little glimpse of hope when they come and say, hey, can you help me with this? It's like, yes, like, I'm going to serve you. I'm going to help you. And I'm always going to be consistent, authentic, that, you know, when you come in, like, I'll be there. And when you're ready, I'm ready. So I think it's that approach that has helped me get alongside of these guys and give them some autonomy to their training, because they are a business in themselves. And when they go onto the field, like, they have a lot of pressure. They deal with things that couldn't even comprehend what they go through. And so for me to come in and think that I know it all and could help them, and even as strength and conditioning coaches, we think that what we do is like the most amazing thing, is going to change everything. Like, we're far from, right? Like, we're probably a very small drop in a bucket for what we can do and help across the board. Especially with already, like, they've made it here without me. You know, they made it to this level without my help. They'll be okay. So I think just having that open-minded and open dialogue with them. And certain players, like, we call them what and why players, guys that want to know, why am I doing this? And guys that just tell me what to do. Like, I'm just going to show up. I don't want to think, tell me what. And so once you kind of identify who those why and what guys are, it kind of makes your approach and your communication a little bit easier too.
I think that's great. I think you touched on a lot of different things, but also the importance of communication and how you have to be a little bit like a chameleon, and how everyone's different. If we're thinking big picture, a lot of younger clinicians or younger people coming up in the field want to dive into very specific things, like, oh, well, how do you treat this baseball player? How do you program for this pitcher? When at the end of the day, a lot of what you said rings true. They're people. They've gotten to this position, the highest level they can get to, without you before. So you need to give them autonomy, listen to what they're telling you, and just do your best to help them along the way. So I think that's amazing.
Huge. Yeah.
To transition a little bit, you've obviously experienced a lot. With good always comes maybe not great. Have you had any obstacles along the way that you feel like you've had to overcome? And if so, can you give our listeners a little insight on how you did that?
Yeah, I think like a linear path was never my path. So it was always like these zigzags and cross and stuff. And if we had about 6 hours, I could sit down and do a timeline. And I would love to hear your timeline. And we look at things that say, like, I started this path and then that took me completely over here and then back this way. And it just like the nature of anything. But I think when I guess I had mentioned just feeling like that chip on my shoulder of feeling behind and feeling like I was far away from, like, interns that were interning under me felt like they had a better knowledge or understanding of certain things than I did, and kind of feeling that little chip on my shoulder for that stuff. But I think it's just that approach of having that mindset towards it. I think that is a negative that you can easily turn positive. And so kind of long-winded to say, I don't have regrets and I don't feel like I have obstacles, because I can literally see every part of my path, connect the dots. Even if that felt like I was behind, I really was preparing for another thing. So like I look back and think, okay, as a trainer, personal trainer, I learned how to communicate with all sorts of people in different backgrounds. And I learned how to be a chameleon. And when this lady's having a great day, but this guy's not, you just learn to hour to hour change your personality. It's kind of exhausting, but you do that same with your patients and my athletes. They come in a great day, you just kind of learn that thing. So I feel like there have been, we always joke about this, like I wear men's clothes, right? Because baseball, we're still advancing with females and we don't have the space yet, but we're getting there, and it's really cool to see. We have our own locker room now and just some of those things. We joke about, like, oh, the obstacle, like, this is the female audience. We always have learn how to piece it down again, because we're so used to being in men's bathrooms, and we just like as transparent as possible. We just make jokes about it. But I think I choose to view life that I haven't had any setbacks, because I do think that everything is an opportunity to prepare you for something, that I don't waste time, because I previously feeling like I had wasted too much time, and it wasn't. But younger Andrea really believed it was wasting time. And so I live by the motto of courage over comfort, and choosing the things that are scary and unknown, and jumping on them because they've always produced great opportunities for me. And I think that that's the mentality I was raised with, or being around people. I'm surrounded by some great, amazing other human beings that motivate me and push me. And people often want to ask, like, how is it working with a bunch of men? And is it the challenge of that? And it's like, there isn't, because I don't want there to be, and I don't seek it. There's a great quote that says, I try hard not to offend, but I try harder to not be offended. And I don't seek for those opportunities to let them hurt my feelings. And I'm sure if I looked for it, it would be there, but I don't have time to do that. I'm doing stuff, right? And so I have been around guys and coworkers and a bunch of men, even from when I started this journey to now, that have been so supportive, that have made me feel like I have a seat at the table, that made me feel valued. And I try to bring that same value to them. And so they always use the word like male dominant industry. And I ask people a lot, if they know the definition of dominant, which means superior, overpowering, commanding, all these negative attributes for the word dominant. And so I say, I don't work in a male dominant industry. I work in a male majority. There's just more of them than me. And I think as females, we can start having that approach and our mindset to switch, instead of being this lesser, or we don't feel valued, or we feel dominant or dominated, that it changes our perspective. But we can get outside that mindset and feel like I can contribute and bring value. And if you don't see it, I'm going to make you see it. I'm going to help you see it in a confident and respectful manner. I want more women to be that versus feeling suppressed and feeling like we're in a corner. And I challenge women all the time, like, we feel that, but then just being transparent. I'll go to conferences and see women just by themselves in the corner. Like that's the segregation part we're trying to beat. So go hang out with the guys. Cause I guarantee I've had more respect from guys that I don't make this my personal platform. Like, my success is not separate from the twins. Like, I am attached to them. So when we win, I win, and vice versa. When we lose, I lose. But I'm not looking for Andrea's platform. I would be silly to think that being this first female strength coach for MLB is anything, because someone else is coming down the pipeline. If my platform and my solid rock is sitting on this, I'm going to be knocked off pretty quickly. So I think as females, I'm just really adamant about pushing us to broaden our mindset, to think that we do deserve that seat at that table, that we have to work hard. We need to be good at our craft too. I challenge all females, like, can we be better? Like clinicians, can we be better at our craft? And I do believe when you put the work in and you treat people with respect and you're kind and you just work your butt off, like, opportunities do come, but you got to take those steps forward, and you got to be willing to take that courage over comfort. You guys are getting me hyped up.
I feel like I could take on the world right now, Andrea.
I'm so inspired. I lied about earlier, saying if no one listened to the rest of the podcast and they just listened to that 2 minute spiff before, they better listen to this whole thing.
I felt my heart rate get up, and I got to calm down. I got to take a drink of water or something. You guys are hyping me up.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. I think you brought up so many good points. Like, when I think everybody in the moment of what they might at the time consider an obstacle is going to be like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not good enough. All that negative top starts popping up. But then you look at someone's career, and, we've been talking to so many people, and it's all a similar story, right? Like, I started off, I love what I do. I love my craft. I worked my butt off to get, really good at my craft. And then there were all these people that seemed more amazing to me. And then, A to Z, here I am. Now I'm with the twins, I think really trying to listen to other people's stories like yours is going to be really helpful to younger clinicians, younger strength and conditioning coaches, dietitians, whatever it may be, to see that perspective as well.
Right.
And then I love the male dominant versus, male
majority,
I forget what you said. I'm sorry. Yeah, majority.
Male majority.
Yeah, I think sometimes, we do it to ourselves being a female, right? Like, female strength and conditioning coach, female sports physical therapist. There's really no need to tack on the female. We are a part of the table as well. Just really amazing points. Thank you.
Yeah. And going off a little bit what Jackie said and what you mentioned is, I'm sure, both of you can relate. A lot of my great mentors were males, and there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, it'd be great to have some female mentors as well. But at the end of the day, people are people.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was, I think, where you I don't know if I had that approach to it, but I remember when I even kind of interviewed, it was just a phone call with Ian for the twins position, just chatting with him about it. And I remember feeling that insecurity, thinking like, can a female really be in this role in that environment? And, we were like an hour deep in the conversation. He hadn't even brought it up yet. He hadn't even mentioned it. And I remember thinking like, does he know I'm a girl? Like, it's like, did he like, yeah. I just like felt that insecurity. I did it to myself. Like you said, like we put ourselves in these spots, and, he asked me other questions, and I said, yeah, like I'm a female, like I'm a girl. Do you see this proposing like any issues or problems? And he kind of laughed and just said, a great line that I always remember, and he doesn't remember because he's a guy, so he forgets, but I wrote it down. And he had said, you're no more at risk than I am. And if I cross a line and become more their buddy than their coach, or cross a line I'm not supposed to, I lose that ability to get buy-in, to teach them, to help them. And if you cross a line you're not supposed to, you'll do the same thing. You'll lose that ability to be a great coach. I'm like, oh yeah, it is that simple. Like it is. And so I think that as females, we have to have that approach and that mindset, and typically our own personal insecurities that limit us. And we put these fears inside of us that never were there. And I don't want to say I have a platform by any means, but if I did have one, it would be to promote the men that promote the women. And so if I can be like, whatever, the opposite of a feminist for a male, like if I can be that for them, because there have been such great guys that have supported me. Like you said, you've had mentors as men. Like there are a lot of great guys that do support females and see the need for female. And he and I, like, we're in the weight room together every day. It's just me and him. Like, we're this duo. And I wouldn't do it any other way. Like, we had two different mindsets, and we think differently, and it works so well together. But I think us gals got to be a little bit stronger, a little bit stiffer spine to handle that. But to know that we're the ones a lot of times that put that own fear, and we're our own limitations a lot of times.
Yeah, great points. I mean,
well put. Very well put.
Yeah, I wonder, because the barrier is already being broken, right? Females are already getting positions in sport. And so there's clearly a community of people that are supporting us coming into that area. So, I think sometimes maybe it's just a matter of, someone who is younger or more nervous or more fearful, just not applying for the position or not gunning for it. And I think we're going to start seeing a big shift in that as, this next generation of clinicians and coaches are coming in, and they know their value, they know their worth, they know they're good, right? So I think it's going to be an exciting next few years as far as, the sports medicine realm for sports. To kind of just like wrap it all up. I know you've given so many like really good pieces of advice throughout the whole thing. But what are maybe some like one or two really like clean, concise little pieces of advice you'd give to someone listening to our podcast?
I think that I always pick two things and that for myself that I continue to do, but one of them being, I think the best way that we master things and get better is through feedback. And so always seeking feedback any chance that you can get. And so something I do all the time, it's 3 words: well, better, learn. And those 3 words represent what did I do well, what can I do better, and then what did I learn. So anytime we're having like staff meetings, or I'm on the floor with a guy, or whatever, even just social situations, it's like self-reflection of those opportunities. Like, what could I have done better? Like, how could I communicate that better? What did I do well? Like, celebrate those successes. And then what did you learn in that process? So thinking through self-reflection. So feedback through other people, having them observe or asking them questions or getting that honest, like things we don't want to hear sometimes. And then also like we're our worst critics most of the time, but getting that feedback. And can you be realistic with yourself and think, I'll do it when I'm done with this podcast. Well, I'll get off and think, what could I have communicated better? That whole process I'll take myself through, because I think that's how we master anything, is through that. And then the second is just a network. And I think it's because I've seen it work for myself. And I know the benefit and the power of having a group of people that are around you that not only help you with your career, but in your life. And so sometimes I interchange the word of network and mentors. It's probably too often because it's all one and the same to me. So whether they've only helped me, down this one path, they're still in my family now, they're in my network, and I take that serious. So reaching out to coaches, reaching out to people, I still do it. When I was in my undergrad, I made that Excel spreadsheet that kept track of every coach I talked to and the last time I talked to them, and made sure I kept up with them. And I try to connect with them. If I have a dog, do they have a dog? Okay, cool. We can talk about that. And you kind of just try to figure out ways to connect with them, because I never want to be someone that takes. I want to give back as well. And I do think networking is a 2-way street. And when I was first learning about it, I never did it in hopes that they would keep me on their radar. And when a job opportunity came up, they would think of me. I really just wanted to know and learn and how to get to where they've been and some of those things. So I think getting that feedback, and then the second thing, building that network, and then making sure it becomes a family mentality versus a one-way street.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Andrea.
I love what you guys are doing. This is really fun. So I thank you for chatting with me.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. It was awesome. Thank you for listening to the Women Leaders in Sports Medicine podcast. This podcast is for you to take a step closer to your dreams. Visit www.womenleadersinsportsmedicine.com to join our roundtables, learn about our mentorship programs, and to let us know what you want to hear. Have a great day, and remember, it's your time to lead.